Hi guys, welcome back to the Knitting Expat Podcast channel. My name is Mina. It's been a while, so let's get into it. Alright, hi guys, my name is Mina. I'm the host of this YouTube channel. I typically post semi-regular vlogs, podcasts, as well as vlogs, sometimes some teaching content, tutorials, reviews, all sorts of bits and pieces on this channel, but the primary focus, at least it used to be, was a knitting podcast. And before we jump into the knitting element, and if you're not interested in hearing all the sort of preamble, like news, information, what's been going on, I'm going to kind of put that at the beginning of this podcast, just because it has been such a long time since I last recorded a podcast. I can't actually remember. I will leave it below on the screen when the last actual podcast was uploaded. I believe it must have been earlier this year, I think. Must have been. And yeah, so a lot has happened this last year. If you follow me on Instagram or even on this channel, you'll know that I was pregnant, I had a baby, but a lot of other things have happened that I haven't been able to share on this particular channel yet. But anyway, I did post a video a few weeks back from when we went on a family trip to the Cotswolds here in the UK. That was really lovely, and it was nice to get back into the habit of filming and vlogging a little bit, because, spoiler alert, I am planning on doing Vlogmas this year. At least I am going to try really hard. I don't know how exciting it's going to be, but I'm going to make an effort. And when I say I don't know how exciting it's going to be, that's not me just trying to be modest. Genuinely, I am concerned that it's not going to be particularly interesting, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Anyway, so all of that good stuff is to come. I'm hoping that in 2023 I will get back into a good rhythm of filming and podcasting and all of that. So we will see how we go. I really didn't think that I'd knit a lot this year until I started pulling everything together to sit down and film this video. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. I knit a fair amount, probably not as much as I've knit in past years, but at the same time, not too shabby. I'm actually fairly happy with my output, as it were. So, okay, so let's start back at the beginning. So some news at the top of the thing. Oh, I was saying earlier, excuse me if I'm a bit rambly today, lose my train of thought, come back around to things because I start a sentence and then go to something else. Like I said, it has been a while. I have intense baby brain going on, and there's like about 100 tabs open in my brain right now, so sorry. If I start a sentence and never finish it and you're curious about where I was going with it, feel free to ask me in the comments and I will try my best to remember what I was saying. Right, so hi. Let me get my thoughts. I should have made notes. I should have made notes and had bullet points or something. Anyway, first thing, I really meant to do this. I meant to post about this back in September, and I still haven't posted about it on Instagram, and I will. I promise I will. I'm going to be teaching at Vogue Knitting Live in New York in February, which is so exciting. It'll be my first in-person teaching event, like festival event, since Vogue 2020, because that January Vogue Knitting Live was the last in-person sort of big knitting event, like festival event that I went. I've been to a couple of small ones here in the UK since, but that was the last big one, and I'm going back in February, which is really exciting. So I wanted to make a point of that right at the beginning here. I will have links to where you can purchase tickets and my classes down below in the description box. Please feel free, please go check them out. If you're going to be there, please come and take a class. I would absolutely love to have you, and I look forward to seeing students in person again, and I'm so excited about that. Right, so that was the big news I wanted to get out there. The next thing I wanted to talk about was a bit about why I've not been active on here, what's been going on, all that stuff. So like I said, if you've been following my pregnancy, I did post some pregnancy vlogs and what meet my baby kind of video earlier this summer. I had a really hard pregnancy, so if you didn't know, it was rough. It was very rough, and for about half of it, first half, I was mostly physically okay, but I was very nauseous, had a lot of morning sickness, really not feeling well at all, like in that sense. And the second half, thankfully the morning sickness went away, but I was in a lot of back pain. I had a lot of back pain. I was in excruciating pain, to the point where towards the end I had intense pain and fatigue, to the point where I was pretty much in bed 80% of the day. There were days where I wouldn't even go downstairs. Like, it was so bad towards the end. And again, if you follow the pregnancy vlogs, you'll know that I was induced a couple of weeks early because on my scans, Nova, our baby girl, was measuring quite small. And as it turns out, when she was born, she was in the 3rd percentile, so she was tiny when she was first born. And yeah, so it was a good thing that they got her out when they did, or that she came out when she did. She was born naturally. Yeah, so there was an adjustment to that, and then she had issues with breastfeeding, and I talked about this a little bit in my Meet the Baby video. She had issues with breastfeeding. We tried, she lost a lot of weight in that first week, so we ended up having to go to like a combination formula and breastfeeding and pumping. It was like I was doing everything essentially at that point. And then slowly we moved towards a but essentially we just moved to just exclusively pumping for her. Yeah, but by the time she got to about 5 weeks old, she pretty much just gave up on breastfeeding at that point. She just stopped trying. She wouldn't latch anymore, she wouldn't stay on, it just didn't work out, and it was starting to be really taxing for me mentally. So we just made the decision to move to, I would exclusively pump for her, and we would do it for as long as it was possible. And so that's what I did. I exclusively pumped for her for basically up until recently. And a few weeks ago, we made the decision that I would, or rather I made the decision, Perry supported me, that I would stop pumping. Because I was pumping, and to preface this, I've had long-term chronic back problems, and it always gets worse with pregnancy, and this time it's been the absolute worst it's ever been. It has been so bad, I can't carry my baby up and down stairs. I need Perry to carry her up and down stairs for me, because it's not safe for me to carry her, because I might drop her because my back hurts so much. So that's how bad it's gotten with my back, just to put it in perspective. The other day I had a day of very normal errands, and by the end of it I had shooting pains up my back because every time I moved my leg, like, it is really bad. And I'm currently getting scans done. I'm seeing a spinal surgeon. I'm not having surgery, but I'm seeing a spinal specialist, a rheumatologist. Like, I'm getting a whole bunch of stuff done to try and get to the bottom of like being able to deal with the pain. So all that being said, they've prescribed me, or they wanted to prescribe me, stronger painkillers, which I couldn't take if I was pumping. So I made the decision to stop pumping, because overall I feel like for my child to have a functioning parent is more important at this point in time than me being able to feed her my breast milk. She's had breast milk for over 5 months now. So it was time. It was the right time, because if I can't carry my child for more than 5 minutes, then she's not getting the best of me. So that's what we decided to do. So I've actually stopped pumping now. I think anyway, going into too much detail on this, essentially stop pumping now. So we're just going through our stash of breast milk from the freezer until that runs out, and then it's just full on formula from there. But it means now I can start taking those stronger painkillers, which is great. I haven't started taking them yet, but I will be from tonight, so fingers crossed it starts to help, and I will actually be able to get some pain relief. The problem is, I know with my back problems that I have, that I know with exercise and with strengthening my core muscles, the pain reduces, because my muscles can like support my back a lot better. And I was starting to see improvements with that prior to getting pregnant, but obviously with getting pregnant, everything all went out the window and I'm back to square one again. But the problem is I have so much pain that I can't do the exercises that I need to do in order to strengthen my back. So I'm kind of in this like really awkward, really annoying catch-22 situation. So I need the painkillers or something to be able to help me live my life, and so that I can start doing those exercises that will help my back get stronger, so I don't have to rely on painkillers for the rest of my life. Which is kind of where we're at. And I'm also going to be getting help with losing weight, because I also know that's not doing my back any good either. So all that aside, that's been going on. Oh, and then on top of that, I had my gallbladder removed in September. When my baby was only 2 months old, I had to have surgery, so that was fun. It was very last minute planned. Like, I had 10 days notice I was going to have surgery, so it was kind of planned. And then not even 2 weeks after I had surgery, I think it was like 12 days, Perry ended up going to hospital, into A&E, because he was having stuff going on. I'm not going to go into details. And he ended up having to have emergency surgery 2 days after he went into A&E. He ended up being in hospital for like 5 days. Completely unplanned, unexpected. He went in, the day before my birthday, so that was a fun birthday. Spent myself fairly freshly post-surgery, having to handle both kids on my own, and Nova being so young as well. She was like 2.5 months old at the time, maybe just about 3 months then. And yeah, thankfully, I'm so thankful my mum is retired, because she was able to drop everything and come and help me out for that week while Perry was at hospital. Especially because I was, you know, only 2 weeks post-surgery myself. And I still you know, couldn't do everything the way I normally would. Yeah, it's been a rough year. Physically, for me, it's been a very hard year. Medically, it's been a rough year for both of us, me and Perry. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to the new year and a fresh start. The one good thing that's come out of this year has been Nova. Nova has been like the shining light of this year. She is absolutely amazing. Love her to pieces. Wouldn't change anything in the world for her. Would do it all over again. But I am also happy to put all that medical drama behind. So we will see how things go from here. Okay, so that's a bit of background as to what's been going on, where I've been, what's been happening. It's all been going on around here. And yeah, I haven't had a huge amount of time for knitting as a result, because of all this stuff, and obviously with a new baby. And then the problem that I've had with the new baby is because I can't go up and downstairs very easily with her, she ends up napping with me just holding her. So I can't do anything when she's napping. So I don't have time to film a podcast or cook a meal or do anything else. So we're now in the process of getting her used to sleeping in her bed so that I can do stuff when she's having a nap, which is unfortunately not something that happened with Layla. We were very good at getting her to nap in her bed fairly earlier than now. So it's a little bit tricky, but we're getting there. It's a slow progress, but we're getting there slowly. So hopefully by the new year she'll be better at napping in her bed, so there again I'll be able to do more things during the day when she's sleeping. So I'm hoping I'll be able to do more podcasts and stuff in the future. Okay, I think that's all the news that I wanted to share with you guys. I don't think there's anything else that I've missed. If there is, I'll definitely pop it into the description box below this video. Okay, that's enough rambling. Hi, I forgot to say, if you're new here, please subscribe. It'd be lovely to have you join our YouTube family. Like I said, I've not been super active this year, but I'm hoping that with Vlogmas and then next year things will start to get a little bit more regular here on the podcast, be it podcasts or vlogs or tutorials or other kinds of videos. I have lots of plans, just no time to implement them. Isn't that always the way? Alright, so for today I'm going to run through a lot of finished objects, then we've got some works in progress, and then I have some acquisitions and plans and like Christmas planning, and then yeah, I think that will be pretty much it. And then some Vlogmas chat at the end if you're interested in Vlogmas. I don't think my Vlogmas videos are going to be particularly long this year, which I think is probably fine. But like I said, we'll talk about that at the end. So let's jump in with finished objects. Alright, first finished object, which if you follow me on Instagram again, you've probably already seen, and I still need to do, it's not completely finished, but I'm calling it finished for the purposes of this video, because I don't know if I'll probably show it again if I add more to it, but it's the crocheted flower blanket, crochet puff flower stitch, I can't remember what it's called now. It's a crochet puff stitch flower, and I turned it into a blanket for Nova. As you can see, there's still some holes in places which I need to sew up, where I've seamed it together and I've missed bits, which is absolutely fine. And I've been using this blanket as a backdrop for taking her photos on, which I absolutely love. And I love how colourful this blanket is. It's basically me in a blanket. It's rainbows, and it's kind of chromatically ordered in rainbow with neutrals in the middle. And I do have a whole bunch more puffs that I've already crocheted up. I just need to sit and attach. But towards the end of my pregnancy, I was in so much pain, I couldn't sit up long enough to stitch these together. That's how bad it was. Because it's not complete, it's hard to tell with me just holding it up like this, because you can't see the edges properly, but it's not nicely squared off. It's not fully even on all sides. So one side is like a bit more lopsided, as it were, so I kind of wanted to even it out a little bit. So I haven't quite done that, I haven't gotten around to doing that yet. I may or may not. Like I said, the puff stitches, the flowers are already crocheted. Like you can see there's a little gap here that needs to be filled, and then it's like there's this one that pokes up and then the rest are lower down, so I kind of just need to put a few in to taper that off. Just things like that, just to neaten the edges a little bit. So I just haven't had a chance to do that yet. And there are bits where there's strings being pulled and the cats have either sat on it or Nova's fingers have caught it. I'm not a fussy person. This is meant to be for fun. It's meant to be cozy. To be fair, this feels more like a rug than a blanket. It is so dense. It is so heavy. I don't even know how, I haven't weighed it to see how heavy it is, but it is fairly hefty and it's dense, so it feels heavy. And I doubt this will be used as a blanket, to be fair. It'll probably be used more as like a throw on a bed, or like I said, as a backdrop for photos. But I absolutely love it. I love that blanket. I think it's turned out amazingly. I am planning on doing a series of tutorials for it, and I'm actually thinking I might write it up as a pattern. It might be, this is something I've been wanting to do for a very long time. I've wanted to create e-courses for a lot of my classes that I teach in person, because I know not everyone can make it to in-person classes, but I've been wanting to make e-courses for like my knitting classes, and in this case crochet for this blanket, and I think that might potentially be my first e-course. I don't know, don't hold me to it. I don't know when I'll get to it, but I will get to it at some point. It is on my list of things to do. So let me know what you think about that. Would you be interested in e-courses from me, or do you prefer in-person classes? So one of the other finished objects I have, and this was from pre-baby, pre-birth, is a snow day shawl that I knit out of this yarn. The snow day shawl pattern is one of my designs that I actually designed and published it back when I was still pregnant with Layla, so it's a very old design. It's one of my favorites. It's one that still does really well in my Ravelry shop, which I'm incredibly grateful for. All it takes to knit this shawl is 3 skeins of 50 grams of sport weight yarn, and that's what I have here. I didn't use this yarn. I used Chickadee by, oh, what's the company? I'm sure someone will tell me in the comments. I've completely blanked. Oh, it's right on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember. Anyway, I'm sure someone's yelling at me through the computer screen. But I used whatever the company is, Chickadee, that one, which comes in 50 gram skeins. But this is yarn by Carol Feller, Newer Sport. And the stats for this one, it's 60% merino, 20% yak, 20% linen. You get 140 meters or 153 yards in 50 grams. And yeah, so I used these 3 colors. So this was yarn I got from the Yarn Dispensary, and this is actually a shop sample for them, which, like I said, I was knitting on this and I finished it before Nova was born. Nova is now 5 months old, so this project is now at least been sat here for like 7 months finished, and I haven't given it back to Gemma yet, so I'm really sorry, Gemma. So the green one is a frog on the wall. The pink one is called Cafe Flamingo, and the grey is called August Storms. So that was the combination that Gemma picked out as for the shop sample, and let me just put that there. And this is how, and I haven't blocked it either. I have been so bad at blocking this year, I will be honest. I've just got to fill up a bathtub and throw everything in now. So this is how it turned out. This is where it starts, and that's how it progresses, and it progresses until, and this is the end. And so yeah, I managed to get it out of, because the yardage of these skeins was ever so slightly less than the yardage I used in per skein for the Chickadee that I used in the pattern. She gave me 2 of each skein just in case, but I was able to get it out of just 3 skeins, so 1 of each color. And there was like tiny bits left over, so perfect. And you can also upsize this, so if you want a larger shawl, you can knit it out of a 3 full skeins of sport weight, or full skeins of fingering weight, or worsted weight, or DK weight, or whatever, however you want to do it. You could also do it from 3 50 gram skeins of fingering weight, so it'd be a great use for leftovers, like if you have 50 grams of fingering weight left over when you knit a pair of socks, because a lot of people only need half a skein of yarn for socks, especially if they do contrasting cuffs, heels and toes. This is a great way to use it up. It'll be slightly lighter because this is sport weight, but if you knit it at the same gauge, then it will just be a little bit more open or something. So there's a lot of flexibility. It is written as a percentage pattern anyway, so it says knit section 1 until you've used X percentage of your yarn A, and then move on to the next section, do it until you've used X percentage and all of that. So you can sort of weigh out your yarn as you're going and change like that. That way you get to use up the most amount of yarn to knit the shawl, which is great. So this is finished, and I will have a link to the pattern below this video. I'm not going to have like super detailed show notes, but if I have something I can link to, I will link to it for you. And if I don't link to it, please remind me in the comments to link to it. So the snow day shawl is one I will definitely be linking to because it is a favourite. And I also sell my patterns on Payhip, so if you're not one to use Ravelry for whatever reasons, you can also purchase my patterns. All of my patterns are on Payhip as well as Ravelry. Another finished object, and this one's quite special because I cast this on to knit in the hospital while I was in labour. It's just a hat. It's just a plain ribbed hat. So I knit a version of this hat for Layla and one of her friends when they were younger, and I still have an end to weave it. Oh my goodness. And it starts as I think it's a 2x2 rib at the bottom, and then once I move into the body of the hat, it becomes a 3x1 rib. Was that right? 1, 2, yeah, 3x1 rib in the body of the hat, and then you just fold up the brim if that's what you want, or you can have it open, so you get the option of having a slouch or a more of a beanie style. I've got a bun in my hair right now, so I can't put a hat on. I mean, I can, but it's not going to look great. It'll look a bit weird. Alright, there we go. That's it on. And I can't remember the wool. I don't have the tag of the yarn with it, so there's absolutely no way I'll remember that right now. But it's a very rustic sort of woolen spun, hand wash only, non-superwash, that's the word. Non-superwash. I think it's even plant-based, plant-dyed yarn. I'm pretty sure that I got this yarn for Edinburgh Yarn Festival back in 2019, so quite old stash. I'm really happy to get it used up, and it's definitely one I'll probably be wearing quite a bit this winter. It's nice and bright and colourful as well. I might even stick a faux fur pom-pom on top because that's just fun. So that's that one. That also needs to be washed. Pretty much everything bar one that I'm going to show you in finished objects needs to be washed and blocked. So just so you know. So another project I worked on, and this is the new design, I think. You let me know if you want to see this as a pattern or not, because I'm not 100% convinced yet. Well, I'm not sure. This is supposed to be a new shawl design, so it's kind of like a diamond shape, or like an elongated diamond. So you have this patch of the blue section, which has got a really lovely sort of texture pattern to it, which you knit first, and it's knit in this direction. So you start at the point and you work up, sort of expanding each row, increasing as you go in this, like I said, lovely texture pattern. And then you move into this striped section where you're gradually decreasing. So you don't have a big bind off at the end. You kind of increase and then you decrease to the point at this side. And it was just fun. Like again, this needs to be blocked. So this stripy section is significantly longer than the blue section, which was intentional, but once blocked, this blue section will be stretched out a little bit. And my plan was that this gets folded over, because it's knit out of fingering weight. It's actually knit out of a single ply fingering weight, that it's folded over, and then that's how it's worn, like sort of. It's been so long since I've had to put, it's not blocked properly, so you can't really actually do it this way, so you can see the blue. And kind of tucks around like that, so it's nice and warm like that. That's kind of the idea. And so when it's folded over, then there's no right and wrong side, as it were, so you always see the nice, well, if you do it properly, like I'm trying to do it in the camera viewfinder, but you get the point is what I'm getting at. And once it's blocked, it will sort of wrap around a lot nicer. That's kind of my idea. So the yarn I use for this one is Pickles Tweed, which I believe is a single ply yarn. I picked it up when I went to Oslo, also in 2019. Do you get a theme here that a lot of these yarns were purchased pre-pandemic? Anyway, sorry, I don't know why I'm laughing. But yeah, so there's that. That was this one. Still need to weave in the ends and block it. But I'm thinking this is going to be a pattern that I write up probably fairly soon, because it's not gonna, I don't have to grade it for different sizes, which is nice. And again, it uses up the maximum amount of yarn, because essentially you knit this whole section until you run out of this colour, and then the next section is knit out of 2 colours, and you knit that until you're almost out of colour, which works out quite nicely. I think I actually have the leftovers here. So this is what I have left over from 3 100-gram skeins of fingering weight yarn. So really not a lot, which is good. So that's nice. Oh, and I have the yarn tags, so that's handy, isn't it? So yeah, Pickles Merino Tweed, 100% wool. I actually picked this, yeah, like I said, I picked this up when I was actually in Norway. They don't have any colour names on them, but I'm pretty sure they do have colours. Yeah. So I had like an off-white beige colour, a purple, and like a tealy blue. But this is what the tag looks like. That will focus, there we go. So it's got a shade number, but it doesn't have a name on it, so I can't tell you what the colours are actually called. Oh jeez, I keep dropping stuff. Okay, put those there. Then next, I think I'm just going to do a quick run through of all the socks that I've knit this year. So I'll do this one sort of at the end, because it sort of moves into the next section. All right, so I have socks. Some still haven't had ends woven in. Most of them still need to be blocked. I don't know what has happened to me, because I'm always one of these people that as soon as I finish a pair of socks, I weave in the ends straight away. And for some reason, half the things I've done have not got the ends woven in. It shows you where I was at when I was pregnant. So I think this was knit post-pregnancy. This is Hue Loco yarn in moss, or moss green. I think it's moss is what it was called. This is West Yorkshire Spinners in, what's this one? I think it's Owl. Is that Owl? This colorway? Was this one Owl? I can't remember. Whichever one this one is. And then this is Stranded Dye Works. I think it's, try and get the name right. Metallurgy? Metal something. I'm really sorry. I can't remember a lot of these names now. This, I think, was a Opal yarns or Regia, one of those German commercial sock yarns. Then this one, I think, is a Knit Picks, but I cannot remember for sure. This might be something completely different, and I'm, oh no, this is one that I picked up in the Netherlands. Yes. Can't remember the colorway or the brand, but I know that's from there. And then this is, if you watched my Cornwall vlog from last summer, so 2021, you'll know that prior to going to Cornwall, I bought some knitting stuff, knitting needles and things that I needed. And I also ordered some yarn from this shop, and I can't remember the name of it for the life of me. But this is one of those skeins of yarn that I got. This one had a bit of an accident when I blocked it. This one has been blocked, funnily enough. And you can see there's been some dye transfer from another skein, another project onto this one, which is a shame, but it's fine. These ones are going to someone in my family. I'm not going to name, but they can probably guess who they are if they're watching this. So anyway, these have all been allocated for Christmas presents. I've decided that everyone's getting getting socks for Christmas this year. So these have all been pre-allocated to people. We're hosting Christmas this year, so I got a lot of pairs of socks to knit. All of these have been knit using my standard vanilla sock pattern with my standard German short row heel with my heel flap adjustment. I will link the pattern below in the description box. This is my go-to sock pattern. And this one, the last one I showed you, is my London B.Ridge socks. It's kind of a play on London Bridge, London B.Ridge, anyway. So these, I'll also link this pattern, I'll also link down below. This is one of my favorite, more than just vanilla vanilla socks, if that makes sense. It's really fun, really what's the word, what do they call it, like potato chippy, like popcorn, like you just can't stop, you keep going because you've got something to aim for, like the next ridge. Kind of just want to keep going until you hit that next ridge, so it makes them go really quickly. The last pair I want to show you are another just standard vanilla pair for me, using my pattern, my recipe, and this is again West Yorkshire Spinners Rum Paradise, I believe is this colourway, and I just used the green, I think it's a Drops Fable green for the cuffs, heels and toes on this pair. So this is my pair. Then I've got a pair for Layla and a pair for Nova which were way too long in the feet for her, but they're really cute anyway. And so on that note, I've started to knit Nova's sock advent. So I've got a sock advent for Layla made out of all of her baby socks that I knit her when she was a baby. And I'm now doing the same for Nova. Although I found with both my babies, even though Nova is a winter baby, she's small during winter, she is very much a colder baby than Layla. Layla always ran warm, Nova tends to run cold. So I do always have to layer her up. I still don't find I use wool socks with her that often. I sometimes use them as like a top layer before we go out, but not very often. So I don't knit wool socks for babies, at least for my babies, with the strict idea that they're going to definitely wear them. If they wear them, great, but if they don't, that's fine, because I'm knitting them primarily for their advent calendars. So she's got this rainbow pair, and she has this pair. You can see these are all, a lot of these are leftovers from the socks that I've knit this year. This pair, then I've got this pair, again, leftovers from the other socks I showed you. This is from some yarn that my aunt gave me. It's just some sport weight, sort of cottony type sock yarn. I have this pair, which I knit a jumper for Layla out of this yarn. And then I have this pair, which I also have another project that I've knit for Layla out of this. And I have enough left over that I may be able to knit a pair of socks for Layla out of them, I'm not sure. But they're a little bit more pink in real life than you see on the camera. They're more like a fuchsia sort of colour. I have this pair, which is like a DK weight pair of socks. These are probably the ones she's worn the most. And then I have this sparkly pair, which was yarn that Layla picked out. It's actually, it's almost like a single ply, but it's marketed as a sock yarn, and I can't remember the name of the brand. It's like, I can't remember. It's like Lang, I think it's Lang, it's a Lang wool. And then I knit a pair for Layla as well. She picked out this yarn specifically asking me to knit her and Nova socks out of this yarn. Although Nova's socks have come out more pastel and hers are definitely brighter, but it's a sparkle yarn, so of course my child picked those because she's a sparkly baby. She loves anything that sparkles right now. So that's Nova's sock calendar is coming along. I probably won't finish it this year just because I now need to focus my knitting on Christmas knitting, so I'll explain that a bit more, but that's fine because Layla didn't have an advent calendar her first year either. Nova's only 5 months old. She'll be 6 months just before it's Christmas. She's not going to need an advent calendar this year, so it's fine. I'm not too worried. I'm also not making her a stocking this year. I'm going to make her her Christmas stocking for next year, so her and Layla both have handmade Christmas stockings. And I'll do her the same as I did for Layla, which is again one of my patterns is a Christmas stocking pattern. I'll link it below if you're interested. But I'm not planning on doing that for her for this year, which is fine. So the other two finished objects I have is another design. This probably won't come out until next winter. I'm going to be perfectly honest right now because I haven't even written it up, and then I need to grade it, and then it needs to be test knit, and it's just not going to happen, I don't think, before next winter. So here's a little precursor for next year. I'm sorry this is going to take me so long to get out. I really wish it didn't, but it's going to. And I still need to put buttons on both of these as it turns out. So it's it looks like just a big square, but it's a tunic, as it were. So let me see if I can show you a little bit. I'm not going to put it on because I'm kind of overheating right now. Actually, you know what? I will put it on. Let me see if I can figure out the front and back. Yeah, there we go. It's got a slightly longer back than front, so I'm just going to pop it on. It's got some stitch markers progress keepers holding it in place on the sides. So this was intended, this was my intention, this was intended to be like a maternity top because it sort of has lots of room for like a bump, and then it's got buttons going down the side, so if you're breastfeeding you can unbutton it and have easy access but also be covered. So it was meant to be like a multi-purpose thing for parents. I finished it whilst I was just about still pregnant, then I tried it on and it didn't look right, so I had to rip out the whole top part and re-knit it again. Like I ripped it back all the way down to like here and re-knit it again. The neckline wasn't right, the length wasn't right, I had to like fix a lot of stuff with it, which is fine. And yeah, so the yarn I used for it is actually from the Midnight Diary. Gemma, my friend, who also works at the yarn dispensary, but she's actually not dyeing yarn anymore, so there we go. So I'll see what's going to happen with this. I need to speak to her about this in terms of like if she's going to make this yarn available as like a one-off when it finally releases, or what her plans are. But anyway, so it's meant to be quite long. Can't even see how long it goes. It's adjustable, you can knit it as long as you want, but I have it so it sits just before the bottom of my bum at the back, so I have it longer at the back than at the front. And like I said, it's got lots of room for like a baby bump and all sorts, and it's a fairly adjustable pattern, and it's got some, let me take it off because I'm starting to overheat again. And this was knit out of a DK weight, and I'm going to have this pattern available in DK and fingering weight. So there you go, you see the beautiful sort of ribs and text and cable texture down in panels. And I've also knit a child size version for Layla, and this one hasn't been blocked because it looks super tiny, but it does fit her. It's going to be a little bit more of a snugger fit for her than loose, because if she's wearing this to play outside, I don't want too much extra fabric kind of getting in her way, as it were. And you can kind of see the pattern maybe a little bit clearer on camera with this one. On the green one you can definitely see it clearly in person, but for some reason it doesn't translate well on camera. And this was knit out of some fiber spates, I think yarn, fiber spates yarn, in this lovely sort of fuchsia colour which Layla picked out as well. So these still need to be, this one needs to be blocked, this one's already been blocked. Both need ends woven in, they need buttons put on, so yeah, this isn't going to be ready for a while. But that's what I've been knitting on. Those are all my finished objects. Like I said, that's a fair few, and I need to get on with it basically. I just have had no time. I promised myself this time after having Nova I was going to take some proper maternity leave from working and not work, and I haven't. I really haven't. Other than maybe knitting some designs and making a few notes in a notebook, I haven't sat down to do any design work on my computer. I've been answering emails when they come through, but other than that I've not been doing much in the way of work at all. So thank you to everyone who's actually been, who's still purchasing my designs and purchasing patterns from me, because honestly it means the world to me right now, especially when I'm not very active on social media or on YouTube. And yeah, the fact that I'm not working, and yeah, it makes all the difference right now, so thank you so much. Yeah, so that's all my finished objects. Quite a lot. And let's move on to works in progress. So as I mentioned, I'm doing a lot of Christmas knitting this year, and I went through the socks that I'd already had knit and ready to go and allocated them to certain people based on the sizes I had and all of that. And then I realized that I need to knit 6 more pairs of adult socks before Christmas, and I absolutely have to get 4 done, preferably 6. So 2 I can potentially postpone if necessary, but I'd rather not. So I have 4 pairs of socks that I've started all at the same time. I am channeling Sockathon energy right now to get these done before Christmas, because right now it takes me close to a week to knit a pair of socks, just because of the time I have available for knitting compared to before. And I also have carpal tunnel now on my wrists that I didn't have before when I did the Sockathon. If you know the Sockathon, you know. If you know, you know. Let's just put it that way. It was a crazy challenge that I did years ago now, probably about 5 years ago or more, and more than 5 years ago, and it was absolutely nuts. I don't know how I did it. I basically knit 35 pairs of socks in a month. So there you go. So I'm channeling that level of energy right now to get these socks done in time for Christmas, because I sat down, it was last weekend actually, so today is the 26th of November, so last Sunday I sat down and I was like, I have to knit a lot of socks for Christmas, or rather I want to. I shouldn't say I have to, I want to. I've chosen to do this, okay? No one's forced this on me. I've chosen to do this. So I don't know why I do this to myself, but I do. So I got to like 5 weeks before Christmas and I'm like, what do I need to do with my life right now? I know, add stress by making myself knit things for Christmas. So not only did I want to knit all these socks, I also wanted to knit a set of hat, glove and like Wellington socks, boot socks or welly socks for my nephew. I wanted to knit a jumper for my niece. I wanted to knit a jumper for Nova, and I wanted to knit another jumper for Layla. And then I sat down and sort of looked at everything, and I looked at how much time I had left before Christmas, and I was like, yeah, no, maybe I can get the socks done, but probably not much else. So my nephew and my niece both have their birthdays in January, so I'm aiming to get theirs done for their birthdays rather than as Christmas presents, so they'll be for their birthday presents, which is absolutely fine. And it just buys me that little bit more time to get those done. And then Layla and Nova, well, Nova doesn't really know the difference. She doesn't care if it's, you know, when she gets her knits, she doesn't really have an opinion on that right now. She is 5 months old. And Layla, well, if nothing else, I can at least block and get buttons on that, on this one to give her for Christmas, if nothing else. I also have the sparkly socks that I've knit her, and I have a hat that I made her ages ago that she's still not really worn, so I can sort of bundle all that up for her for Christmas. Yeah, so socks is where I'm at. And I'm not going to tell you who socks are for, because the people I'm knitting for, well, I'm pretty sure won't watch the podcast. They might, someone might, and I don't want them to ruin it. So I have, this is the first pair that I'm knitting. And I knit my socks 2 at a time, by the way, if you're new here and you don't know that. And most of these are following my vanilla sock recipe. Some of them I've added a pattern to, but the patterns I'm using aren't actually any of my current designs. So if you like any of the patterns and you'd like a pattern for it, let me know and I can write up the sock pattern. Writing up sock patterns are fairly quick for me, so that is something I can do and turn around within a few weeks. I say a few weeks just because I don't have a lot of time, but I can get it done fairly quickly compared to sweaters and garments. So there's this one, which has a simple rib at the top, and then this kind of traveling rib pattern, which is really fun, creates this sort of like spiral effect. It's hard to get it on camera because it's kind of blowing out the colours a bit. And the yarn for this is Lay Family yarns, which again I think I picked up in 2019. Everything's from 2019. Lay Family yarns, they're a UK based company. And the colourway, if it's on here, is called Friends Who Knit Together. And I think it was a special colourway for a knitting retreat that they were running. It's 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And that's the label, that's the front. That's the info on the yarn at the back. And yeah, that's the first pair. The second pair of these, and I picked up this yarn from a yarn shop in Cornwall, and I'm so sorry I cannot remember the name of the yarn shop, but I'll show you the tag in a second. This beautiful deep sort of blue variegated colour, and again started with a simple rib at the top, and I've just moved into a simple 3x1 rib in the body. I don't know if you can see that clearly or not, but the person I'm knitting this for likes nice snug fitting socks, so I thought a simple 3x1 rib will help the socks stay on nice and snug. And so this is it's Demelza's Delights is the name of the dyer, or the dyeing company. Made in Cornwall. Here's the yarn information. So it's called Dosmerry Pool. It's Poledale sock, so it's 80% superwash Falkland Polworth Corriedale blend and 20% nylon. So that's the information on that one. Oh, and this is hand wash. Okay, so I need to make sure whoever I give that to is gonna, or the person I'm giving that to will look after it, so fingers crossed. The next pair I have of these ones. So again, a simple rib. I just did a 1 round of garter stitch, or pearl stitches rather, sorry, before I started the foot. I just feel like it adds a nice little detail to the top of the sock. Especially if you're doing a plain vanilla sock, it's sometimes nice to add these little details here and there. And this is, the yarn for this one is a very special yarn. It was a gift from the lovely Kristen of Vine Yarns. And it's on her Footsie base, which is 80/20 superwash Blueface Leicester and nylon, 800 yard, 365 meters. It's TOOOOO ply fingering weight, and it's in the Vine number 5 colorway. So yeah, that's that one. Again, I'm pretty sure this was back from 2019, if not earlier. It might actually even be earlier than 2019. I'm pretty sure this is earlier than 2019. So that's in that. Oh, so the bags that I'm using, these 2 bags are bags that I made myself back when I was a bag maker. I used to make project bags, go figure. I stopped when I got pregnant with Layla because it was too much for my back to do the sewing, and I just kind of never got back to it, unfortunately. So these were my own made bags. This is a bag by Whimsy Stitches. I absolutely love it for sock knitting because you've got the clear panel, you can see what's going on in there. I don't think Rick has the same fabric anymore, but he has other rainbow fabrics which look amazing. And it's lovely. It's a drawstring at the top, and it's great for on the go. I take this one to the cinema with me all the time. I have holes in this one because my needles have poked through it over the years. I've had this since Layla was a baby, or maybe even before she was born. Rick sent it to me, I can't remember now, but it was around the time that Layla was born that I got this bag, and I've been using it pretty much non-stop ever since. And then this bag, which has the last pair of socks in it that I want to show you, is from Hide and Hammer, and I don't know if she's based in the UK, I don't know if she's still doing zipper bags or not, but she does the really popular fold over bags, and I don't have any of them at hand. I have a couple of them, but I don't have them at hand right now to show you. The fold over satchel type bags, which are really lovely, but I really love her canvas and leather products, which are really lovely. And yeah, so definitely check them out if you're interested in that sort of stuff. And in here I have this pair of socks, which I've also just started. This pair I'm not planning on knitting much more on at the moment, because next weekend Perry and I are supposed to go to the cinema. My mother-in-law is going to babysit for us, so we're supposed to go to the cinema, and I'm kind of keeping these for cinema knitting because they're just plain vanilla and perfect for at the movies. And this one is yarn by Barnyard Knits, and it's in the Jewel colorway. So it's 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. There's the tag, and that's the back of the label. Put you there. Like I said, most of this yarn is at least 3 or 4 years old. I don't know if any of the dyers are still producing these yarns or these colorways. I mean, the only one that's recent is this one, which I picked up at Cornwall last summer, but everything else is much older yarn. So I don't know if the colorways are still in or still being dyed, or I'm pretty sure most of those dyers are still dyeing yarn. I don't think any of them have stopped. But yeah, so that's it for works in progress. I do have other yarn wound up ready to go for my niece and nephew's knits, for Nova's jumper, and even for Layla for something for her as well. So if I have time to start them, maybe I will, but I highly doubt it. Especially my carpal tunnel, like I said, is acting up, and it hadn't been acting up too much this year because I've not been doing a huge amount of sock knitting like I am now. Like in terms of, like, I would knit a few rows here and there over the course of time. I wasn't knitting to a deadline, as it were. And with also carrying my baby, who's gaining weight, thankfully, but she's gaining weight, so she's getting heavier, and all of that is starting to aggravate the carpal tunnel a little bit. When I knit at bigger gauges, so like DK, worsted weight, that sort of stuff, it doesn't get as aggravated. It's when I'm knitting at tight gauges, like fingering weight socks, that it starts to get a little bit annoyed, as it were. It sort of starts to flare up a little bit, so I need to be careful not to completely overdo it either. That's why I don't think I'll get more than the 4 or 6 pairs of socks done before Christmas, like I said, which is absolutely fine. I don't want to injure myself. So other things that I have some acquisitions to show you, and actually, funnily enough, the actual yarn acquisitions are all from one person. So let me just restart the recording. So my actual yarn acquisitions are all from the little grey girl, another Gemma who's also here in the UK, and I met her at an event at the yarn dispensary. So I have the yarn dispensary bag here. At the beginning of October they had a Love Local event, which I was supposed to be at. I was supposed to be a vendor as a designer there, but then because of all the medical stuff that happened, me having surgery and then Perry having surgery, I had to cancel and back out of that, which is unfortunate but kind of necessary. There was no way I was going to be able to make it for that, but I did go and attend one day. I took the girls with me, left Perry at home because he was still recuperating from surgery, and I took the girls and we went down to Faversham and we went and checked out the event. And so at the event I got a few things. I got some sock yarn. So I got the self-striping sock yarn and a coordinating mini skein to go with it. And it's actually her Unravel Autumn 2022 colourway. Unravel, again, is another knitting festival here in the UK. I wanted to go, but with the aforementioned drama it was just not possible. But yeah, I just really like this colourway, so I got that with the mini. They are both on her high twist sock base. So 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. So that's great. So those will be a pair of socks. I actually went through my stash the other day of sock yarn and getting all the yarn out for the projects I was going to do for Christmas. And I'm running low on sock yarn. Shocker. Who'd have thought? But I think I have enough yarn now, and I counted. I think I have enough for about 15 pairs of socks left. So it looks like I'm going to be buying sock yarn when I go to Vogue next year. Not that I'm complaining. Anyway, I also got these two skeins from Gemma. The rest of this yarn was given, the first yarn, the sock yarn I showed, I bought. The rest was given to me as yarn support for future designs. So this is Cloudlessly, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's high twist sock again, so 75-25 superwash merino nylon. Can you see that label? It's a nice sort of neutral, slightly darker grey. And then that is to match these bright minis for a rainbow jumper for Layla, and there's probably going to be enough left over to do one for Nova as well. Because if you remember, I did do a rainbow stripy jumper for Layla and Nova, was it last year? Yeah, it would have been around Christmas time last year. I did those and I'm pretty sure I showed them on Vlogmas. However, there were issues with that. I'm not going to go into it. It's been dealt with. Layla still wears hers, Nova still wears hers. They love them, but I can't use those versions for the final pattern. So Gemma gave me more yarn to do new versions for the pattern. And I actually really love the rainbow in this one. Layla loves it as well. So this is going to be for Layla and Nova. And then I still need to get a different shade of grey, but she's going to give me a different shade of grey to go with this darker rainbow to knit a version for myself for the adult pattern, which will be really fun. Trying to get that to focus. There we go. So yeah, so I'm really excited to get into those. That's probably going to be a 2023 knitting project. I haven't even wound up the yarn yet. I wanted to keep it nice and like in its package to show you guys on the podcast before I wound it up, because they look so pretty in their packaging. And the other thing that I have to share with you, and this is really special as well, I was contacted by Jocelyn from TOOOOO ages ago now, probably feels like it might have been about a year ago. I think it was just after Christmas she got in touch, asking if she could send me some of her swatch cards for her yarns to see if there was anything, you know, so I could pick from it yarns that I'd want to work with for future designs. So she sent me her full range of swatches. They're so pretty. I say swatches, like yarn samples is what I mean. So she sent me her O-Wash chunky colours. They're so beautiful, and I love the chunky yarn. It's so round and plump, and it's just begging to be something cabled or textured. They're just so pretty. And there's three, if I can separate them out. They're like attached together with like a pin in the corner, but there's like 3 different cards of colours for this one. And then it's the same with the O-Wash worsted, O-Wash sport, O-Wash fingering, which is also really pretty. And then they've got their oval balance. And this is a This is a cotton merino blend, which is a really interesting sort of textured looking yarn. And then we've got the oval local, which is looks like a single ply, and it's organic merino and alpaca. They got the chunky merino, which also looks really pretty, and they're classic worsted as well. So she sent me a lot of samples, which is amazing. And so I still need to figure out what design I want to do with them and which color I would like to use for it. So, or which colors, we'll see. I just want something, you know what, I'm really drawn to the O-wash chunky or the worsted. That's kind of where I'm going. I'm thinking the chunky for something super like thick, textured and like chunky. I think that would be really lovely. So yeah, we will see where I land. I haven't fully decided on anything yet, but yeah, so this has been sitting in my office, my studio, and I've just been like oogling and occasionally doing this with it, like stroking it against my face. But yeah, so that's everything. That's everything I have to catch you guys up on. I kind of gave you what we've been up to at the beginning, and so my plans for Vlogmas, and you may have not gathered, because of my back issues, that's why I'm worried that Vlogmas this year might not be particularly interesting, because I'm not able to do as much. But fingers crossed, the painkillers I've been given will work, will be good, and I will actually be able to do more things, which would be so lovely. This week in particular has been a bit of a rough one, because I guess I didn't talk about this at the beginning, but at the beginning of this week, well, the end of last week, actually, Friday last week, we decided we were going to take away the dummy. Nova's been using the dummy, and it's been starting to be really annoying overnight when she's waking up every like hour or so wanting the dummy put back in. So we've decided to just ditch the dummy now before she gets any older, before it becomes more difficult. So we ditched the dummy, and the first few days kind of went okay. And then on Monday, Perry was in London, and I swear to you, the days Perry goes to London are absolutely cursed. And it's not every time he goes to London, but whenever something goes bad, something goes wrong, Perry's in London. I got locked out of the house, Perry was in London. We lost Hugo, Perry was in London. Hugo got out of the house at some point. Oh, this happened, I don't think I podcasted when this happened. Hugo got out of the house. He got out of the house. We had cleaners come round, and one of them was new, didn't know that Hugo doesn't go, the cats don't go outside. She let him out the back door into the garden. So he was missing for like 5 hours. Thankfully, we have cameras at the front and back door of our house, security cameras. So we were able to check. We found him on the cameras. I don't think, based on what we saw, he never really left the back garden. He kind of went into the front garden a little bit, sort of sniffed around the bins and then went back. He never actually left the property, thank goodness. He tried to make friends with some local cats who were like, who the hell are you? But he never actually left the back garden, really. And so we found him in the end, thank God. That was super stressful. I was heavily pregnant with Nova as well, and I'm like getting on my knees trying to look under cars to see if my cat's there. Because they also don't wear collars. We've tried before, they just do not keep them on. They managed to get them off. So it was absolutely terrifying in that moment. That we lost him. We genuinely thought he was gone, and Perry was in London and he was panicking. He was like, there was nothing he could do. So that happened when he was in London. There was another point when I was pregnant and I was seeing an osteopath, and they told me I had to go to A&E because they thought my symptoms were something. I was having some symptoms of like numbness and stuff, and they thought it was like an emergency situation. And again, I was alone, pregnant with Layla. She was on school holidays at the time. So thankfully, another friend of ours who lives nearby was able to take her so I could go to hospital without taking Layla with me. So again, stressful. Seriously, every time something's gone wrong, Perry's been in London. And then this time on Monday, when Perry was in London, I had to go pick up Layla from school early because she wasn't feeling well. Brought her home, all fine. Then was trying to get Nova down for a nap in the afternoon. So I had Layla watching her iPad in her bedroom so I could deal with Nova. And then what happens, just as I'm getting Nova down, I hear Layla coughing, and then something doesn't sound right, and I run in to check on her, and she's throwing up everywhere. I'm like, delightful. And then Nova's kicking off because she's not quite asleep. I had to drop to go see what Layla was up to, what's happening with Layla. So I've got Layla vomiting everywhere, and then I've got Nova screaming her head off, and I'm just running back and forth between these two rooms trying to deal with both babies at the same time. And bear in mind, I'm in pain as well. Drama. It was so stressful. It was the most stressful 30 minutes of my life. Both my babies needed my help at the same time, yet I couldn't split myself in half and deal with both of them equally at the same time. It was the hardest 30 minutes. We got through it, all fine. Got Layla cleaned up, changed the sheets, all sorted in the end, but it was hard. It was hard work. But like I said, got there in the end. Nova finally went down for a nap. Layla was finally okay, but it was rough. And then of course she had a stomach bug, hence the throwing up. Inevitably, it got me next. So I was sick, I think, not that evening, the next day in the evening. And then Perry got sick about a day after me. So it's made its rounds through our house. And then unfortunately last night, Layla got sick again. So I think she got reinfected. So we've been on a major cleanse of the house today. We've been like, we stripped all the beds, we've washed all the sheets. We've done, I mean, we changed Layla's sheets last night because she threw up again, but we've washed all the sheets. Thankfully, touch wood, the only person who has not been sick yet is Nova. So she's avoided it so far. So I'm hopeful, fingers crossed, that means she won't get it at all, because last thing I want is a baby going through this. It's not fun. But she seems to have been okay. But it's been the worst week because we've been trying to get rid of this bloody dummy, and I mean, we have gotten rid of it, we've not been using it, but it's been so hard getting her to go to sleep without it. And then on top of that, we've all been sick. So it's been it's been a rough week. But I think we're at the end of it. Last night was a much easier night. Last night was almost back to like a normal night before the dummy started causing problems. So I think we might have broken the back of the dummy issue. Okay, so that's all of that. So fingers crossed I start to feel better by the time Vlogmas starts with these painkillers, and then we can get out and about. We do have some fun things planned. I'm planning one day on one weekend to take Layla, just the two of us, up to London to go check out the Christmas lights and go see some of the stuff in London, because I know she'd really love that, and we don't get a lot of Mummy Layla one-on-one time either, so it'd be nice to do something just the two of us, and I think she'd really like that. And then what else do we have planned? Oh, we have a really exciting trip planned just before Christmas. Nova's not coming on this trip because she's too small for it, but my mum's going to come and stay and look after Nova for the few days that we're away. And yeah, so I'm really excited. You'll have to stay tuned. We are going to be telling Layla ahead of time. I said to Perry this time, I was like, I know, like, we kept New York a surprise literally up until the day before we left. I didn't tell her until the day before we left, which was amazing. She loved it. She was so excited. Because she was so excited, I was like, you know what? And I said to Perry, I really want her to have that excitement and be able to enjoy that for a few days before we go away. I don't want it to just be the spur of the moment, last minute thing that we tell her, and I feel like we're robbing her of the enjoyment of being excited and the anticipation of going on this trip. So we decided we were going to tell her a week before we go away, and so it's going to be me, Perry, Layla and his mum. So it's going to be the four of us going on this trip, and it's her big extravagant, it's a super extravagant Christmas present, I will be honest. As far as Christmas presents go, there's nothing more extravagant than this, in my opinion. So I said to Perry when we booked it, I didn't know I was pregnant yet, but we were planning on having another one at that time. And I said to Perry, I was like, you know, we're gonna have to do this again when we have a second one, because it's like, we can't leave it any longer to do with Layla, otherwise it's gonna be too late. She's the perfect age to do this. So we're just gonna have to do it again and save up and do it again in a few years time with Nova. But it'll be worth it, and I'm sure it'd be absolutely amazing. It's so much fun. So that's coming up. And then, like I said, we're hosting Christmas this year. And then we've got a few things planned in the post-Christmas week between Christmas and New Year as well. And then yeah, sort of back to life again in the new year. Oh, regular life, as it were. But yeah, so I've got some fun things lined up for Vlogmas, and things like that, but we will see how it goes. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you are all having a wonderful time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry if it was a bit rambly, a bit all over the place. I will try and remember to link everything I said I would in the video description box below. I'm not entirely sure when this video is going to go up. Hopefully I can get it up before the end of this weekend. Today's Saturday, so hopefully by the end of tomorrow it will go up. And then yeah, Vlogmas starts next week, which is really exciting. That was another reason I really wanted to get this video filmed today, because I really wanted to get a podcast in before the year ended, because I'm not going to get another one done before the end of 2022, which is absolutely bonkers to think. And yeah, so thank you so much for joining me today. Please leave any comments in the description box below. I might not have an opportunity to reply to everyone, but if you have any questions, I will make a point of trying to reply to those specifically. But I do read every comment that everyone leaves, so, and I do heart them all, so you know I've read them. But yeah, so thank you so much everyone. I will be back again with Vlogmas very soon, and until then,